But no, yeah, man. I was talking to you about a little bit about Gazi, man, and I just think he's a great human being overall.
Yeah.
Would you be able to talk a little bit about that relationship and just like how you were able to end up into Empire through like your artistry and stuff like that?
I think one thing I really respect about Gazi is a lot of the labels, they went to LA and they built their infrastructures there. Gazi was like, I love the Bay and SF so much. I'm going to stay here and build something here where all the artists from worldwide, they're going to have to come to SF. Then they see the greatness of the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Me not being from the Bay, maybe I don't appreciate it enough as the people that are like, that grow up in the Bay, but that's a blessing. Because in Detroit, we really don't have nothing like that. A lot of artists that are popping, they actually come out here and they get their deals out here and then go back to the city. So it's man, it's a lot to come to. I think there could be a big scene coming here soon.
Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you, where are you from?
Me, I'm from Detroit.
You're
Michigan.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Where like your ethnicity and like your family
Palestinian
from?
originally.
You're
Palestinian.
Palestinian, right?
Yeah.
And right now, like I said, it's a very sensitive topic, so I don't want to say something I really don't mean. But let me ask you that, like, how does it feel to be an artist with everything going on right now?
It's weird because it's some artists that are literally Palestinian rappers, meaning like their music is just Palestine, which is dope. I think it's a dope thing. But in my individual instance, I'm more of an artist who happens to be Palestinian, and it's kind of like my music. It has the touches of where I come from in the culture, but it also has, me growing up in America, my experience here. So I think adding that bit of the Palestinianness was always something that drew my people from back home to my music.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now it's almost like there's no other choice. It's like music is a form of resistance, and resistance at this point is existence. If people wasn't speaking up and going all out, going back home, you see, like, if you've heard some of the numbers, it's getting up to like 23,000 people in Gaza have been killed already. And that's conservative numbers. There's a lot of people under the rubble that they still got to bury out. And like when you look at that, the reason that it's not even worse than that is because there is a pushback from the world. Artists are speaking out, activists are speaking out, lawyers, doctors. And it's kind of putting a pushback to the occupier that's doing that. They're like, okay, the world's watching, the world's paying attention. We can't kill this many people, but they have killed this many people. So I think that's the scary part about it, is you're in the studio, you're trying to find the right words to like say for your people. But then at the same time, it's just nonstop bombardment. And even when there was a pause, it was like last week they did a 4 or 5 day pause. Things were still going on outside of Gaza, but because it wasn't Gaza and it was like the other parts of Palestine,
Didn't get no attention.
it didn't get no attention. And I think that's the nuance in the whole conflict. Is as complicated. It's like, what's really going on? Is it this little place Gaza? They say Palestine. Is Palestine Gaza? Palestine, what it is I'll get into it a little bit. In 1948, after the Holocaust with the Jewish people, they needed a homeland to go to. Right. And there were 2 places they were debating. It was, I believe, a place in Africa. I think it was Uganda. And the other place was Palestine. And at the time, the Palestinians were already occupied by the British. They were the controller of the land, but it was all Palestinian people. But they were chasing independence for so long. And then 1948 comes, and Israel establishes a country on top of Palestine. And they say, hey, you know what? We're going to split the land up. Now imagine, just to put it in perspective, is like, old boy from San Jose has a problem with you, and you got to get out of the city. You come to me in Oakland, and then you're like, yo, because old boy did this in San Jose, I'm gonna take your house in Oakland and split it in half. There is a valid reason, and there is a very evil thing that happened in Europe with the Holocaust. But the Palestinians had nothing to do with that. And because of the sins of Europe, they put a country on top of our country. And it's kind of been that way the last 75 years, where what started as half Palestine, half Israel, it shrunk to like maybe 10% left of what's actually Palestine. The rest is all occupied by Israel. And like growing up, I had a lot of pride. My pops, he went through a lot of shit in his life, and he kind of installed it in me to like never forget. And I was super prideful. I went into this world not realizing the dangers that come with being vocal about this stuff. So it was like, I think the first instance was in elementary school. I told this girl in my class, yeah, my people got kicked out by Israel. Next day I get called to the principal's office, and they call my mom's in. And they're like, your son is saying bad things about Jewish people. I'm like, well, I have Jewish friends. What are you talking about Jewish people? What does got to do with Jewish people? Jewish people, that's a religion and an ethnic race of people. Israel is this is politics we're speaking about. But I didn't, you're a little kid. You know what's going on with your people. You want to tell kids at school. And that was my first instance into realizing, they've complicated this. Mm-hmm. If you speak pro-Palestinian or just for human rights or freedom, the way the media and the way the people in power have kind of positioned it is it's against Jewish people, which doesn't make sense. Right. There's a lot of things that have gone down in America where you've seen at the White House when all those Trump supporters, not the White House, the Capitol. Yeah. When they stormed the Capitol, nobody is gonna say, these people are like fighting for the freedom of America or something like that. But it seems when you're talking about Palestine, there's some type of nuance that comes with it, and we're breaking that as we speak. I think like this right here, us speaking on it, shows the time we're living in.
I think also I want to hear your perspective on it, but I think social media activism is something relatively new to maybe even rooted in when Black Lives Matter was at its peak, 2019, 2020, right? And it's a lot of people in our generation that are truly educated, and there's a lot of hope, I think, for the future because we're very progressive. The majority is, I would like to believe. How would you say though, because there's also the other side of what comes with that, and it's a little tricky because now people feel like they're obligated to post on social media, and because they feel like they're obligated to post because they're in fear of, being called racist or, ignorant or whatnot, because of that obligation, there's a lot of people posting stuff that are completely uneducated about what they're talking about. And they're forming, it happened in the past with Black Lives Matter and other, political issues in America that we stood up against. But now, as you said, since the situation is so nuanced and there's a lot of misinformation being spread, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of labels being put on pro-Palestinian people. What would you say is with the whole fake activism and fake woke thing, how would you say that's affecting and hurting the pro-Palestine cause,
Yeah. I think it's happened with these modern movements. Growing up in Detroit, you get a lot of the history of Malcolm X and stuff. And to me, growing up, I grew up with a lot of black people, and they're kind of the Palestinians in America. For so long, they've been chasing freedom. They've been chasing full liberation. Reparations never came. Just people move on and move on. And I think one of the reasons that BLM, for example, it was a movement that didn't necessarily have a leader. Everybody was chanting for the right cause, but who was the leader of it? It's the same thing with the Palestine movement currently. People are emotional and they want to be heard. They want to be known. But there's no leader that's really putting it all together. So then what you do is at the protests that I'll be at, some of the most peaceful, amazing protests I've ever been at in my life, but you'll see all different walks of life. And when you have all different walks of life, you got people with different opinions, different perspectives. And then when there's not one leader, you kind of have everybody marching for the same reason, but they may have different ways of going about it. And I think that's the biggest thing with this movement right now is there needs to be a united idea on what the goal is. People are dying, all this. There's a lot of people speaking out. How do we stop them being killed? But then after that, how do we stop it from never happening again? And that's something I've been working on just even on the grassroots, the smaller foundation level, is to understand what is our goal with this movement. Because if it's just ceasefire and we stop the bombing and stop the killing, it's going to start again in a year. Because the thing is, this has been going on for a millennium, man. It's been 75 years. And even before that, the Palestinians was chasing their own liberation from the British. Now it's become every 2-3 years they get the bomb in Gaza, and Gaza take the hit for all of us. And it's messed up because it's like Gaza is an open air prison. You can't come in and you can't come out. I have some cousins over there. They are maybe 5, 10, 20 miles from Egypt. They can never leave Egypt. And in those days that they can, it's very limited to the year. So then when they do this and they start bombing it, not only can they not go nowhere, in this place, Gaza is smaller than the city of Detroit. It's 2 million people, one of the most densely populated places. 50% of the population is children. When you let these facts like sink in, you're like, damn, you got America funding one country called Israel, which has one of the most sophisticated militaries. And they fighting against a people that a lot of them are in poverty. A lot of them living in tents. They can't go nowhere. A lot of their population is just children. It's not a fair fight, but they frame it to the world like it's a war. And that's where it gets confusing. And I feel it. If I wasn't Palestinian, I'm looking from the inside out. Until you really meet a primary source, Palestinian or something like that, it's super, super hard to not get confused. You look this stuff up on YouTube. You look it up on Google. They've made the tracks to where you get sidetracked. And then, oh, something happened in 2008. Oh, okay, so that's why. No, wait, no, this has been going on for 75. You get confused in all the nuances of it. And yeah, just to answer, like, my bad, I was rambling, but like with the anti-woke or like the woke movement and all that, yeah, it is a lot of people who I think they think posting is standing up for Palestine, but it's just the bare minimum. There's some people that aren't posting that are doing a lot of stuff outside the cameras and stuff like that. And I just hope we don't take this momentum that the world is seeing right now and just kind of like let it die down. Like liberation needs to come from this. Freedom needs to come from it. And then, you know, for the other side, when Palestinians say they want freedom, there's some reason they're threatened by that. And you got to think even to this country, when you look at this country, when black people were asking for their rights and they were asking for this liberation, you think, all right, yo, you just enslaved them all these years. It's not that hard to just give them what they're asking for. But there was still a fear of the white man in this country to give black people his full rights. I think that's the stage we're in. It just so happens they're bombing kids and women and innocent men all at the same time. So it just gets, it's like you're fighting for freedom. You're like, this is what the solution should be. And then all these bombs just keep coming in. You're like, it's a weird situation.
It's weird too. It's painful because, you know, I have a lot. Obviously, I'm Muslim American, raised in America. My parents are Moroccan immigrants, and you know, it's painful because I went to school with a lot of Jewish people. You know, I went to school with people from all walks of life, being raised in the Bay, and especially where I live now in Los Angeles, it's so divided, and it almost feels like a breath of air being back here because I don't feel like I have to bite my tongue. But you know, it's painful, like, you know, standing up for human rights and being called anti-Semitic or, you know, these things they label you as for really just standing up for your people, you know? I don't wish any harm or death on anybody from any walks of life, you know, Jewish, Muslim, black, white, wherever you're from, you know, we all preach in peace, but for some reason that message is not heard when it comes to Palestine, and I beat myself up about it. And you know, I was very vocal on Instagram for the first few weeks, and now it's just so hard for me to post, and you know, I feel a little guilty about it, but it's just, man, it's really tough, you know. And it's not about really any fear of falling out with anybody or losing friends or thinking about what people think of me, because you know, I'm far past that. You know, this isn't a race issue, and that's what I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, you know, you're Palestinian. It's like, it's crazy that you got to explain that though.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, it's crazy that you have to explain why you're saying the things you're saying.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the other side, they don't need any justification for saying crazy things. Mm-hmm. But when you say, man, it's just it's hard. It's.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's like when we were saying Black Lives Matter. What do we mean by it? We're saying that right now, black people's lives are not being represented. They matter. So we say that. What is the opposing argument that comes with it? All lives matter. So are you saying all lives don't matter? Are you saying white people don't matter, or Mexican, they use scapegoats, a bunch of people, Arab people, they don't matter. No, we're not saying that. When we're saying Black Lives Matter, we're saying in this country is a disproportionate amount of black people in prison. There's a disproportionate amount of people getting killed by police. Let's address this matter. There's always a pushback from a powerful oppressor. And with Palestinians, they call for freedom. Nah, they calling for terrorism. Nah, they extreme. Nah, they... It don't make sense. But then you go to Israel. You go to the #1 charting song in Israel right now. They are calling to kill for the head of Bella Hadid, Dua Lipa, and all these pro-Palestinian activists. And it's #1 in their country. Where's the hatred? Or they're literally calling to behead somebody on a song. If I were to do that, and God forbid, I don't believe that, I would never do that. But if I were to even get something like that, my life's over, my career's over, the way they demonize us. But on that side, it seemed like they can go on TikTok, make a trend about Palestinians in Gaza. There's a trend going on in Israel where you mock the people holding their babies that are dead. Yes. And you mock, and all the Israelis are doing the trend. Now, I don't want to say, oh, sorry, that's mine. But a lot of Israel, it's a big trend. I go on my TikTok, I click the hashtag, it's hundreds of thousands of posts. So it can't just be a minority that feel this way and is this openly racist. But there's a weird way in the system where with Palestinians literally just say, yo, man, if you're going to bomb these kids, they going to fight back. That's terrorism all of a sudden. And I noticed when I studied, like, this country's history, there was a figure named Nat Turner. He was part of the slave rebellion. And what he did was he got tired of slavery. And one day he woke up. He's like, I'm done with this. I'm going to fight back. So he went with a bunch of enslaved people, and they formed a rebellion. And they went and they fought against their oppressor. But not only that, they slaughtered everybody because they had to break free. Now, when you look back at history now, he's kind of seen as a revolutionary hero because what he did was he said, I'm not going to be enslaved. I'm a human being. I'm going to fight back. At the time, what did white America do? They said, oh, they think they can fight back against the worst things that we're doing to them. They can fight back? Bet. So they went and slaughtered a bunch of African Americans, and they used that as a justification. With Palestine, I want to be a peaceful person. I want all my people to be peaceful. You go to these protests, they're all peaceful. Facts. But then there's people in Gaza who like have been locked in a prison their whole life, and all they know is my brother got bombed, my sister got bombed, all this. At some point, you're going to fight back. And like it ties into faith a little bit because some people, if you believe in something, you believe this isn't the end of life, you believe there's another life, you're not going to sit there and take it. So they fight back. The problem is when they fight back, it's called terrorism. Yeah. But when the actual aggression, the action before the reaction happens, it's not justified by the world. The world don't stand with this shit, but it's what we consume. Who runs media in America? Right. We come to America, they're one of the biggest allies of Israel. So American media is always going to be on the side of Israel.
Which is scary.
It's just, yeah.
The world's so big and beautiful when you zoom out and you don't focus on all these stereotypes and nuances, and it's like at the end of the day it's like humanity and love always wins. You know what I'm saying? No matter what walk of life you're from, how you were raised, everyone kind of has their own demons. Even the richest kid, you know what I'm saying, they perceive pain a certain way. He could be going through it because his parents may be divorced and he has parent problems. The same way a kid from the hood could be feeling some type of way about his environment or something, you know? Everyone has their own demons and battles, and it's unfortunate when you grow up in different situations, you're kind of blind to the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human and we all struggle. Even if our struggles may be completely different, we still feel that pain inside, you know what I'm saying? And the only thing that's really universal is love. So
that's real. Yeah. I think one thing you touched on is like there's Israelis that are speaking up for Palestine. That's a big thing. I mean, most of the protests I go to, forget Israel, like Jewish, because the whole thing that they frame it as is when you stand up for Palestine, you're anti-Semitic, which makes no sense to me because Palestinians are Semitic people.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. I don't know if you've heard it, but like whenever you hear it, it's just the thing, oh, he's anti-Semitic because he stands for Palestine. Palestinians are Semitic people. Lebanese are Semitic people. These people are all from the Semites. So you don't really realize how can one hate his own. And that's a crazy thing, but they also tie nationalism for Israel to being Jewish, which makes no sense. If any of us here would have criticized Saudi Arabia for a policy or something they do, you're not being anti-Islamic. You're being anti-Saudi Arabia. If any of us criticize America, we're not being critical of Christian people, because this was a Christian original country. We're not being critical of white people, though, you know, there's a history here, but we're not being critical. You're being critical of America. Israel has made it when you're critical of them, you're hating a whole group of people. That's a crazy concept. I've never understood that. Palestine is home to the oldest Christian community. A lot of people make it this Muslim Jewish thing. It's not. When I go to Palestine, a lot of the people I see are Christians. And they're not just Christians. They believe they're the original Christians. So I went to the church that Jesus was born in. I'm a Muslim, by the way, but Palestinians are one people. So whether you're Christian, Muslim, you really can't tell when you're in Palestine. And then we also used to have Jewish Palestinians. My family in Haifa, 1948, a couple years before that, we was taking in Jewish people from the Holocaust because nobody in the world wanted them. So we were taking them in. We were renting apartment buildings to them. We were giving them homes. And even before that, there was a minority of Jewish Palestinians. So we was one people. It's just they're constructing it. And what I'm trying to do, basically as an artist, is one, tell our story. You know, also show my people isn't just like depressed, sad, being bombed all the time. These kids are probably happier than me in Gaza. Even with all the bombing going on, like you talk to them and you realize, yo, you take this life here for granted. These kids will find that 5 minutes of the day and they'll appreciate it. They'll be happy. But I get to this point where I'm like, how can somebody be against Palestine and not realize, okay, when you're against Israel, it's anti-Semitic, but when you're against Palestine, technically, if you're going by that same standard they use, you're being anti-Jesus. Because Jesus, if he was born today, would have been born in this city called Bethlehem. Bethlehem is surrounded by apartheid walls, meaning they're trapped in. And if they want to get out, it's a very, very, very hard process. Different than Gaza. It's a whole different part. And, like, nobody talks about that. So I think one thing is, like, to Jewish people, to Israeli people that sympathize, that understand, you being critical of Israel has nothing to do with your race, your religion. This is politics, you know? And it just so happens that the Palestinian people, they've been hidden for so long, and now they're letting you know, look, we don't want to end you. We don't want to get rid of you. But, like, acknowledge our right as human beings. And that, I think, is something we can all unite on. And like you were saying, love always wins. Humanity always wins that way. I think that's the thing. Everybody just needs to be free. That's it.
Yeah. It's like, it's the same thing as, like, us, like, as much as America has its own problems and stuff we don't agree with, like, I can genuinely say I'm proud to be American. Like, I enjoy the freedom of this country, and I understand my privilege as being the son of immigrants. You know, they came here to provide for us and give us a chance at higher education and a better lifestyle. So I'm well aware of my blessings, and I love it here. But that doesn't mean I agree with everything our government does. You know what I'm saying? Like, us going to protests and speaking out against our president doesn't mean I don't like being American. It just means because I love being American, I have to hold them accountable. I have to speak up against things that are wrong. And it's no different for the conflict between Palestinian and Israelis. It's like, you know what I'm saying? You can love being Israeli. You can love being from Israel, and speaking out against what they're doing doesn't make that love go away. You know what I'm saying? If you really believe in the rights of all humans, and you know you preach against all these war crimes, then it should be no second thoughts. You know what I'm saying? If anything, it should make you want to do it more. It holds your country accountable if you love it so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a fact. No, I agree with you 100%.
Have you talked to people down there and, like, asked them how they've been receiving your music and like what you've been able to do for them?
Yeah, so I have some cousins in Gaza. I actually got a lot of relatives in Gaza. Thing is, after 1948, my family was from Haifa. They migrated all across the world. The last of the Shiblaq family, my artist name is Sammy Shiblaq, and I kept my full name, one, because my favorite artists kept their full names, but also that last name, they could find me somehow. And I actually did. A lot of cousins have found me through music, and it's kind of crazy how much they fill in the blanks of how much stuff I didn't get. But the music, I think they're not listening to it. For sure, not the people in Gaza. For sure not. They definitely see it, but like I don't know if they really have time to listen to the music. But they acknowledge that I'm doing something it's risky. They know it, even as Gazans. I was talking to my cousin yesterday. I was like, bro, I'm at all the protests. I'm going outside. I'm trying to do everything I can. Posting is the bare minimum. And he's like, thank you for posting. He thinks just posting is like the biggest thing in the world. And that's what I mean. These people are different. They're appreciative of small things. Personally, if I was in Gaza, I'd be like, why isn't the world coming to help me? Why are they not coming to fight and save me? But he's just like, yo, you're doing your part. Thank you. And I'm like, guilty, because I'm like, I'm not you, bro. I'm not living there. I'm doing the bare minimum, whatever I can do. And that's kind of the reaction. They just want people to speak up. They want to be acknowledged, especially those people in Gaza. The rest of Palestine, what's messed up is like the West Bank, which is the other part that's occupied right now. They can't say anything. So even if they like a post on Instagram, the police are at their door arresting them. And there's, I think, over 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank, which is very big to this movement. You know, that many voices is huge, but they can't say nothing. The rappers can't release right now. I don't want to say names of some of the artists, but just because they're literally in it right now. But some of the artists I work with a lot, they can't say nothing right now, and I look to them as like a voice to really tell me on the ground what's going on, and they're just being super, super quiet, low-key. So everybody on the outside, dropping the music, doing the activism, they're looking at it like you're speaking for us. So it's a big responsibility, and that's why it's also an education time for me, because I know so much, but I'm kind of looking at what's the most effective way to get the message across. And yeah, man, I hope they're proud. I hope the people in Gaza are proud. I want to see them, you know, like win. They're great people. There's one artist, MC Abdul. He's a 15-year-old artist from Gaza, one of the biggest ones. He got big on social media and Instagram globally because he just walked outside of his house, and it was just a whole war zone, and he just started freestyling. And he just started freestyling his life. And it went global. The Fat Joe, all these old head rappers, not old head rappers, I shouldn't have said that, but like the old school rappers, the OGs. My bad, I'm around so many of these young rappers. I'm young too, but like the OGs of the game really like picked him up, and they took him all over the map, and now he's like a real voice. That type of stuff is powerful because nobody did it before. And now when you have the American Palestinians starting to speak out and they starting to put it into their music, it's connecting. It's connecting all different boundaries. So I think you'll see in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of Palestinians emerge in music because they're talented people. And with this kid Abdul that I was telling you about, when I met him, I started questioning myself as a human being. Like, how did he grow up the way he did? And he just treats everybody so well. He treats them good. He really like looks at the person in the eye while he's speaking to you. He wants to know about you. And then I realized, okay, I've met a lot of people from Gaza. They share a lot of these qualities. You would think with everything they go through, they get this hate in their heart and they just want to fight back. It's not true. These people, literally, you put them out into the world, they might change the world. Israel might be scared of that. Because if you let the Gazans out, bro, they've seen so much that they could help. You know, a lot of different problems. There's Congo, there's Sudan going on. It's all related to the Palestine issue. It's all, there's a greed at the top that want the minerals and stuff like that. And it's all related through these conflicts. But I think the Palestinians, especially in Gaza, they need to come out and people need to see you just bombed them, and look how they turned out. They're still great human beings.
How do you, I have a lot of Palestinian friends in LA, and they were talking to me about feeling guilty doing normal things, being a college student, going out to a party, enjoying themselves when, you know, people are literally dying every day, every minute. How do you think that those experiences, like meeting this kid Abdul and, you know, knowing that you're kind of a part of this movement now that's growing, do you think that may help with the guilt? Or do you feel that guilt at all? Do you still have that? What are your feelings about being so privileged and blessed in the position that you're in as a Palestinian artist while all these terrible things are happening to your people? Like, what do you feel and how do you deal with those emotions?
I just think of it, if I was in Gaza and the people of Gaza was here, they would feel the same way. Because it's almost like we're limited. What can we can't go back there. We can't help them. We can't get them out. So I think for me, I won't lie to you, I haven't enjoyed life too much the past 2 months. It's been a really weird time. I think every hour that I have, I try to be focused. I've neglected a bunch of other things in my life because of it. It's definitely starting to kick in now towards the end of the year. But I just try to stay focused. I see that all this right now in the world, being awake on it, something will come out of it. Something will come out of it. I hope it's a state for the Palestinians. I hope it's freedom. I hope it's full liberation. But I think just the vision is just tunnel. I'm not really, obviously there's times in the day where you see something that really fucks you up mentally, like really just messes you up. And you're looking at it like, damn, bro, I'm watching this through a screen. Like, I should be over there helping, doing something. But I just try to keep going. I think the movement can't stop. Like, the second it loses momentum and people normalize this is when they get away with a full scale, like, take over the land, erase all the people, kick them into different countries, and then Palestine just gets forgotten. And I think as long as the momentum and people are speaking, they're doing new ways. I think music has been a big tool to wake up a lot of people. That's the most. Yeah, eating food sometimes felt bad. You know, drinking water felt bad because they don't have food and water. Using your electricity to charge your phone felt bad. But then I realized I'm the one who's being tested. The people in Gaza have passed their test because when you talk to them and you speak to them, they're not asking you for money. They're not asking you to come fight. They're literally just asking you to never forget them and just keep speaking for them because they can't speak. And to me, I guess on like personally, like a religious belief, I'm over here like, okay, I am the one who's going to have to answer for what I did. Did I do enough? Did I try to do everything? And that's where I'm at. Each day I'm battling with, did I go to sleep knowing I did everything I could? Been holding some Zoom classes to educate maybe 30, 40 people a day. Try to go to the protest. Working on an album for Palestine. That's like, I haven't dropped the album in 3 years. This is going to be something where people were awaiting my normal music, my normal hip-hop albums. Now it's going to be all about Palestine. It's going to throw a lot of people off, but it's going to be a form of education that I think it'll do its part. So, yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know. You just got to, you can't feel guilty. The second you feel guilty is the second you become less impactful, the second you start not doing things and dwelling things. And I just try to look at the people in Gaza. I'm like, if they're strong, and some of these people I'm seeing in the videos just lost 3, 4, 5 family members in a day, and they're looking at the camera like, I'm going to keep helping the people in the rubble. I might have lost all my family members, but I'm going to dig people out of the rubble. I'm like, I can't be weak. I can't be weak. It's part of the Palestinian thing to always be resilient, and I think I'm just feeding off what they're sending to the world.
My bad, but where do you think that really comes from? Because like you said, I think it's easy when things like that happen for people to retaliate or at least feel some type of hatred inside of them. Where do you think they're able to like funnel that, like you said, that like grace from?
It could be faith. A lot of people at Gaza are probably the most religious, faithful. And when I say religious, I'm just talking about like their faith is strong. They really believe that they're going through an injustice, but they can't stop because there's justice in the next life and there's justice that comes later on, maybe 100 years, maybe 50 years, but they keep fighting for that. And it's become a thing of the Palestinian spirit. Even this thing I'm wearing, the kufiya right here, it represents resistance, resilience. And it's become like a stamp of the the whole culture. Before we were just fishermen, we were farmers. You know, we were very humble people. I talked to my grandparents, very humble people. None of this war, none of this type of stuff. We was the people of the Levant. You know, all the religions came through Palestine. They all have significant history, but I think the past 75 years turned people into just way, way more resilient, like by any means necessary, we're going to exist. Mm-hmm. And it's been seen in a lot of groups of people. I study like past, groups that have been ethnically cleansed, genocided, to understand like where did that come in their culture. Like there's Armenian people, there's the Uyghurs. Nobody talks about the Uyghurs in China. There's been like 1 million of them. I started going to their restaurants. I started understanding like their culture. They're very similar to Palestinians. I think it just comes with that. I think Latino people have it. I think black people have it. Anybody that's been through a certain type of oppression, you gain a sense of strength. And as long as you hone into that strength, you'll never give up. And you'll be a very strong community. But the second, whether it's the media, whether it's the power, or whether it's the industry you're working in, once they want to take that strength and kind of limit you to be weak, like, nah, take this beating, but shut up about it, that's when they get away with it. And as long as we don't let them get away with it, there's good to come in the future. A change will come. It's just going to take, I just hope it doesn't, I just hope they stop bombing before that happens.
It's unfortunate that things had to escalate to this point for the rest of the world to wake up because, like you said, it's been happening for 75 years. But when you say that, people think you're talking about literally 75 years ago. But, how many instances were journalists killed or protesters killed in Gaza in the past 5 years? You know what I'm saying? But I think, I don't want to speak on it too much, but I'm hoping that the strength and resilience of the people in Gaza and Palestine, they feel the support around the world because there's a worldwide movement right now, and it's going to be in history books. Our kids and our grandkids, like, this is something that will be talked about for generations to come. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's unfortunate that it had to come to this point for the rest of the world to wake up, but there's also beauty in that, right?
Yeah. Let me ask y'all a question. So the current stuff that's going on right now, and y'all don't have to be specific. You don't have to be super precise with it. But like, when did you first start hearing that something was going on? And then what did you hear about it? I want to know that so I can.
That's a good question, bro, because when we were kind of planning this, I told him, I was like, bro, I want to do my research, but I also want to keep myself like uneducated, if that makes sense, just to like get your perspective on it. But honestly, I mean, I've seen, I'm a big fan of Gazi, so like obviously he's been posting about it a lot. You're a casual person like reposting on their story. But it's just like that's about it, bro. I've heard things about like journalists getting killed and stuff like that, so that's why it's not getting put out as much. But that's pretty much it. Like, it hasn't been too much.
What about you?
Man, for me, like, I think it may be a little different because I'm Muslim. I've heard things growing up. I always knew there was a conflict. I always knew something was wrong. But, it's crazy to say, even as a Muslim, like, I didn't know to the full extent until the events that occurred in October. And that's probably why, because I was raised here in America. But like there were little things that I always kind of knew felt wrong, but I wasn't educated about it. And it's crazy saying that, right? Like, even as a Muslim American, like, you know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of my guilt came from. But, it's especially like the fact that, like, Morocco's always supported Palestine.
Heavy. Yeah.
But yeah, bro. I mean, like, I always knew felt weird about people that I went to school with, like, going to Israel on birthright and things like that with everything going on. But I didn't the same way. I mean, a lot of those kids that did go back home on birthright, they were literally just going to party. I'm sure they weren't even aware of what
No
that
idea.
really meant.
Yeah, they don't see the other side. They take them to the good parts. It's like taking somebody to the suburbs in like a city that has a lot of hoods, and then not taking them to this is the city, you know, and then being like, yeah, it's great, right? The suburbs, but look at all the people over here. Look how they living. That's kind of what they do. And birthright, I'm happy you brought that up. Birthright is a crazy concept. Birthright is the concept that any Jewish person in the world, regardless if you're from Europe, Australia, America, you get a free trip back to Israel. I don't know how long it is, but they basically just give you the best time of your life. And you can go back and become a part of an ancestral homeland, as they say. Palestinians don't have that right at all. Doesn't matter where you're from. Americans kind of get a little privilege because you can go with the American passport. And even that's limited because if you're vocal about Palestine and you go to that airport in Israel, they're going to see that and send you right back. But the birthright concept is like, say one of you converted to Judaism tomorrow, and then a year from now you want to go to Israel, you have that right. But me as a Palestinian who's got thousands of years tied in ancestral, you know, like documented in books, you look my last name up on Google, you find books of my ancestors all throughout the land. I can't use that. The only thing I can use is the American passport. And then you're thinking about the Palestinians that don't live in America. There's like 500,000 Palestinians in South America people don't know about. Chile is one of the biggest homes of Palestinians outside Palestine. Those people can't go back with that Chile passport. And that's a crazy concept. And the reason I asked y'all that question is you brought up October. What did you hear happened October? Like October 7th?
October 7th, the Hamas group, you know, kidnapped like Israeli civilians and, you know, essentially murdered people that were innocent. But, you know, obviously rest in peace. And I you know, like that's not, I don't see that as the way of
all
progressing
innocent lives. You stand with all innocent lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, all
Humans.
innocent lives. But at the same time, it's like you keep oppressing a group of people. You keep poking a bear. You think the bear's not going to bite back? You know what I'm saying? And it's like the whole first 30 days is like, do you condemn Hamas? Condemn Hamas? Like, of course, but why are y'all ain't talking about all the dead bodies on Palestine side? Like, why? Like, yes, all innocent lives. Like, you know, but why is it only one side when it comes to deaths? Like, why have so many media outlets been exposed? The fake clips. And why is there so much stuff on that side? Like, what are they trying to hide? And that's when I really did my research. And obviously, I don't want to act like I'm a professional because I still don't know nearly as much as I want to know. Yeah. But yeah, bro, but it's like I felt the pain in like my Jewish homies and my Muslim homies, and it was a terrible thing that occurred. But in my eyes, it was just like they took that as a justification to begin full-on genocide. It's like you don't. They're looking for the Hamas or whatnot, but you don't. Like if there was like a school shooter, right, and there was a active shooter, and he had all these kids hostages inside the school, you're not about to go drop a bomb on the school and say, oh, but we killed the one shooter, but 45 kids died. That's exactly what they're doing to Palestine. It's like for so long they had the hostage argument, but it's like y'all carpet bombing Gaza where like the hostages could
you don't even care about the hostages.
Yeah, like so it's just like, and it became painful to like argue with people and stuff because it was like, what are we even really talking about? Like it's not even like I don't know.
No, I feel you. That's for me as a Palestinian. October 7th, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna let it loose. I saw it as very fishy, very shady, because you're talking about a country that has a literal dome like around it, where if any drone, any missile comes in, this dome intercepts it. It's like the most sophisticated military thing in the world. This is Israel. If you're gonna tell me that people broke out of that prison that they was keeping in for 20, 30 years. And they break out of this prison. And then they come and launch an attack on you. And it takes you 6 hours to pull up to the scene to come and help your people in your country that you are the most, literally their culture has become security. Every Israeli citizen has to join the military. You have to. Every Israeli, like Jewish Israeli, you have to join to keep your citizenship. So their culture has military in it. If you're going to tell me it took 6 hours for y'all to pull up and deal with this, there's something shady about it. So for me, this is how I make the statement. October 7th, I condemn every single innocent life that was killed. But then at the same time, I'm going to ask Israel, who was killed? If I was speaking to Israel, who was killed? I condemn any innocent life, but who was killed? The first day, they said 40 babies. So now you got to think, as a global people, all of us in the room right now, if you heard that a group of people killed 40 babies, not just that, they said they were beheaded, you would think this is some fucked up shit. Palestinians, already, you've dehumanized them. You've said that they have decapitated 40 babies. Okay, so what happens? The next day, people are like, yo, this didn't happen. You got activists like Ben Shapiro. You got the Israeli Defense Force on Twitter, official government pages. They post pictures of blurred out babies. People use these photos and they throw them into AI systems and they come back and it's fake photos. Okay, so now they delete their tweets. Official governments have posted photos of dead babies and delete their tweets because they're getting called out. So the next day, oh, damn, they're catching on to us. Let's come up with another story. All right, it wasn't 40 babies, but it was a group of babies. Okay, just provide the evidence. Everybody's waiting. Yo, we're going to condemn it. Palestinians and even the Muslims in the Muslim faith, in times of war, you're not allowed to touch children. You're not allowed to touch women. You can't touch places of worship. This is like a known law. If you ever see a Muslim group that's doing these things, they're going completely against Muslims. Muslims have like taken them off the map. But now I'm asking, so 40 babies. Joe Biden comes out and he says, I've seen photos of the 40 babies. So the population is like, yo, let's see them. We want to see them. The White House realizes Joe Biden made a mistake and they come out and say he never saw photos of the 40 babies. Not only that, okay. So now they make another story. First you say they killed babies. Now they raped women. So now you've painted to the world, especially in this current climate, that the Palestinians are raping women. And that's what happened October 7th. One statement even came out to say they cut certain limbs and raped the woman. These are like crazy statements. This is how you completely dehumanize a people. There's no evidence of this stuff. There's no proof. People have pushed and pushed to get the proof and evidence. It doesn't exist. So then you start, okay, after October 7th, you see what starts happening in Gaza. Now kids are actually being killed. Now we're actually seeing babies with their heads taken off. Now we're seeing women in the Palestinian prison systems getting released and saying they were raped, and there's evidence of the rape. Now all the things that have been accused on the Palestinians in the past 2 months have happened to the Palestinians, and we're still talking about something that happened October 7th. If I were to go on something like Piers Morgan, or I was to go on some news outlet, the first thing they ask me, not about the Palestinians, like y'all is real ones. Y'all asking me, y'all trying to get information. The first thing they'll ask me is, do you condemn what happened October 7th? That's like tuning into the Game of Thrones at the last season and then looking at the bad guy and saying, oh, the bad guy's good. You got to watch all the seasons to get a good perspective. This shit started 75 years ago. It didn't start October 7th. So that's the part that messes me up. Is like there's a lot of deception going on, and Palestinians have gotten to the point where it's kind of annoying even as a Palestinian. When I open my Instagram, it's just dead babies. It's just evidence because these people want to document what's going on. If they get erased, they have to document everything. Whereas the other side has this power and control, but provides no evidence and makes the claims that they are doing to the Palestinians. That's why you're always in a place where you got to give so much insight and so much thing on the conflict. Because, for example, if you were to hear that October 7th story and that was your first time hearing about Palestine, right. Yo, they killed 40 babies. Yo, they don't deserve a land. Yo, they raped a woman. They don't deserve a land. Right. These things didn't happen. What really happened October 7th? We still don't know. We don't know. That's a crazy concept. People are getting bombed for something we don't necessarily know. First, they said 1,400 people were killed. Then they brought it down to 1,200. Then they released a list, and the whole list was military. Now, I condemn any innocent life, But if you're occupying and oppressing a people and they kill your military, technically that's justified. Technically that's war. That's what they say that they're doing to Gaza. Things just get really deceptive and confusing, and you're just left like, damn, I got to explain all this different stuff. And I think that's where the conflict gets so nuanced. This isn't the first season. This is probably the last. If I'm being honest with you, Israel has exposed itself to the world to the point where they're awake, and something has to happen from this.
Well, I saw a crazy statistic today. I don't want to speak on how accurate it is, but it looks very true. It says roughly 90% of people in Gaza are already displaced.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, it's very few that still have their homes. Yeah, of 2.4 million people, I think 1.8 to 2 million people are completely displaced.
So, do you feel like it's it's almost like you have to, because I know it must be very tiring and annoying to have to keep explaining this to people, but do you feel because it's so nuanced and there's so much misinformation that you're almost obligated to continue to speak?
Yeah, it's my duty. I think my pops, my grandma, they went through so much stuff because of this that I was kind of given a chance to be the child of the occupied and make some type of difference, or at least attempt to. I think I haven't impacted the world or changed the world, but I think that I see the progress in the whole movement, and I want to be one of the artists that doesn't make this my whole thing. You know, it's not us getting bombed and getting killed. That's not my brand. That's not who I am. That's not who the Palestinian people are. But I think just right now, it's a very, very critical time to existence. Like, we are watching something that in 50 years they will talk about. They were trying to erase the Palestinian people. While that was going on, Kim Kardashian got Man of the Year. Adam 22 did another crazy thing. You know, a lot of crazy shit was still going on. And that was going on. And that's going to be all documented. So I want to make sure my heart is good, knowing I did what I could. And it's not the end. You know, it's going to be a long uphill battle. It's going to be a long fight. But something good will come out of it. I know it for sure. 100%.
If you can, like, send a message to the people down in Gaza, like, what would you tell them?
I say thank you, man. You woke me up. You woke me up as a human being. I was maybe I wasn't too grateful of the things in life, but I look at y'all and I try to just be somewhat like you. If I could be 10% of what the people in Gaza is, I'll be happy with myself. But they like radiating on everybody. Like, everybody's seeing what's going on, especially non-Middle Eastern people. They're seeing these videos and they're like, there's got to be something about these people. It's something special. And I truly believe they are like a very special
breed of people, for sure.
A special breed of people.
Can you tell the viewers what they could do to actually help? Obviously posting and educating themselves, but do you have any other specific calls to action that you think would be beneficial for the people in Gaza and people in Palestine?
Yeah. I think education, right? So I think it starts with knowing the events of this. Don't start at the last season. So one thing I can give y'all to start with is the Balfour Declarations. That starts 1917. And that is when Theodore Herzl, who was actually an atheist Jewish man, he believed that the Jews needed a homeland. And this was before Palestine and Israel had a conflict. Israel didn't exist. So Palestine was an existing country. This man named Theodore Herzl came up with a proposition to create a state within Palestine. And in the 20, 30 years that followed to 1948, they followed through with that plan. And that is the father of Zionism, which is what we're against, to be honest with you. We're not against Jewish people. We're not against Israeli people. We're against Zionism. Because Zionism is a political ideology that has latched itself onto a faith and a race of people. And it was created late 1800s to 1900s. It's a new thing. So it has nothing to do with the ancient Jewish people. There's the Balfour Declarations, then the Nakba. The Nakba is the greatest catastrophe. That's what it means in Arabic. That was in 1948. They hide this from you, but all you got to do is like Google Nakba, and you'll find out everything they kept from you from this conflict. All the stuff that they accused the Palestinians of from October 7th, you find actually happened in that catastrophe, and that's how the Palestinians got displaced. And then once you get the education, you know, you fill yourself in all the seasons, episodes, join the protest, man. See what they're like. If you feel passionate about it, post. I think posting is a bare minimum. It's not a condition on people. And then try to get involved. See how it relates to other things, you know? Because Palestine, Israel is just like specific. But what it means to humanity is if this place really breaks out, everybody's going to feel it. Like everybody. The whole Middle East goes into it. America has a stake in Israel, one of the biggest allies. We give a lot of our tax money to Israel each year, billions of dollars that could solve the homeless problem in San Francisco, that could help the hoods, that could help the education system, that could help welfare, all these things. But we give it to Israel to strengthen their military. Find out why it's so rooted in American culture, and then just see, you know, there's boycotting, there's protesting, but get passionate about it first. Make it make sense to you. Understand why the Palestinian struggle is like a struggle. Not just because it's a momentum or a trend. Like, get yourself the facts and the information, and then love these people. See the humanity in these people and stand with them. And that's the best thing anybody can do. I think if the whole world stands united together against this, there can be a change. And another thing I just want to bring up, George Floyd, right? The knee on the neck tactic that they did to kill him. That tactic has been used in Israel for 30 years. What happens is our American police forces, and you guys can all look this up, each year they go to Israel and they train with the Israeli Defense Forces. They teach them tactics that they use on Palestinians. Those police officers bring it here, and then they test it out. They use it. And each year they do this. So a lot of the brutality that we're seeing with police is directly related to the Palestinian conflict. And if we can break that, and we can break this weird power that Israel has even on the politics here and a lot of the things here, we can actually take a lot of our voice back here, even in music, hip hop. You know, it runs deep. Sports. I mean, everything is somehow related to this small bit of land in the Middle East. And it kills me, man. But yeah, just education. I think that's the biggest thing people could do. Education. And love it, you know, love it. Don't follow the trend. Don't follow it just because it's a trend. Don't feel guilty like you have to do something, but just honestly educating yourself in the meantime while you're trying to figure it all out. That Palestinian people would tell you, yo, that's the best thing. The people of Gaza would tell you, yo, thank you. Thank you for learning about us.
Hey, yeah, and I feel like, you know, like I said, I'm not the most educated, but don't feel scared to ask questions. You know, if you're scared to speak on it, ask yourself why. Ask questions, do research, you know, educate yourself. Don't be scared to be educated, you know what I'm saying? Education is power. You know what I'm saying? And I think once you are educated and you actually learn what's going on, it'd be hard not to say something. You know what I'm saying? So education, like you said, is
facts.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's our due diligence, just to get educated, you know, because like you said, whether it's affecting us at the moment or later on, I mean, it can affect us, and it is affecting us, you know. And I don't know, I feel like if you're an American, you definitely believe in like community and like doing what's right. And if your neighbor is hurting, then you're hurting. So
right.
Yeah, and that's why when you seen, you know, told me about you as an artist and, you know, just like being a Palestinian artist, I was like, man, like we can do anything for this guy and give him a platform or talk about like
I appreciate
what
you,
he's
bro.
going through and just like, you know, how we can help, bro. Like, yeah, we're definitely for humanity and just like
man.
trying to help the world.
It's love,
sure.
my brother, man.
Hell yeah. I appreciate you for putting this together, bro. You're a real one.
hell yeah.
This is something different, but I appreciate this. Like, this is important. So yeah, man, Alex said we gotta log off, so we're logging off now. All right, Neighbor Heroes, come on.
Yep.